Okay, so who better than one of our own to discuss new trends and methodology in our industry? Matt Morgan is currently Vice President for MDM Scaffolding Services, Inc., a supplier and subcontractor of access in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. MDM has been an active member of SAIA since '93, and he has been contributing to the association for the past 10 years. Matt was born and raised in Dallas-Fort Worth, but ended up at the Milwaukee School of Engineering in Wisconsin. He has been working for MDM since he was a freshman in high school, starting in the warehouse yard, and then moving to the installation crews before interning during college. He now oversees the company with his daily focus on business development, engineering, design, and operation. He is currently working towards transition MDM to second generation ownership, which has been owned and operated by his parents for over 28 years.
Matt is a visionary in industry and has found a way to marry the traditional and the innovative. His techniques, first mispronunciation of the day, his techniques have helped put MDM on a podium in the scaffolding industry, and he inspires a lot of us to do things differently and to look at the way we do things and question them. How can we do better? How can we advance? And we will let him share it with you. He's here to present. This is Competitive Edge, New Trends and Methodologies for the Access Industry. Here's Matt Morgan, who you all already know, but now you will discover more about what he does. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. It's the third day of the association, so I'm sure all of you guys are still bright-eyed and ready. So, like they said, I'm second generation of our company, and we're not a big national company. We're a regional company in Dallas that we can handle all of Texas and the surrounding states, but really we're really focused in our Dallas-Fort Worth market. And so, as I got into the company, I was really only supposed to come in and focus on marketing and the financials and understand the company from the ins and outs of that aspect. And then, the first big wave of what can our company do sets us apart from our competition. It was social media. And, everyone's talking about younger generation and millennials. Well, of course, I knew Facebook and Instagram and social media, so we focused there. And then as I continue to get further and deeper into wanting to understand our company, how do we separate ourselves? We're up against national companies. Now one of them is the largest in the world. They have all these resources, all this money, all this equipment. And then you have us who, we still joke about it today, we get all the hard work, we don't get the easy stuff, so they know that we can perform, and they know we're gonna do a good job, but still, what can we separate ourselves to get the bigger jobs, to grow? And, for me to be second generation, I wanted to leave a legacy after my dad, and so I started to look into what are other people doing, and we're actually lucky because we started looking into, how can we be more efficient? How can we be more productive? How can we sell better? How can we sell easier? And so some of the things I'm going to talk about today, mostly I'm going to focus on the design because a lot of scaffold companies they're just now getting into the design side. We've been doing it for 6 or 7 years. And I'm also going to talk about how we're trying to digitize our company, real-time reporting, streamlining our processes. And then now, as everyone's talking about, and with the great presentation before us, the chaos of the pandemic and how our industry as a whole is changing. There's Teams, there's Zoom calls. They don't want to meet face-to-face. They want to see things in a faster time. And so now you're seeing these software companies that are coming into our industry. And you're seeing cloud collaboration and file sharing and all that. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that as well. So scaling designs. I was trying to think about, how do I show and talk about designs? Everyone's seeing these or getting hit up by people that say, hey, I can design your job for you, I can help you with your estimating, your bidding. So to kind of go backwards, this was our designs 6 or 7 years ago. You got your basic quote, you gave them a hand sketch as your reference. And we were actually fortunate, we had a salesman that he got into design in Photoshop, and he wanted to use that to help better himself as a salesman and how to show his customers what he's actually providing. He's not just providing a price, he's not just providing a scope of work. He can show you what he's actually pricing. And he actually went a little too far. He used to use this middle-aged fat man to show, here's a 6-foot reach, so he could show the deck levels. But again, he's being innovative. He's trying to show a representation of what your job needs and what it's going to take to do the job. So that really is what spearheaded us to where we are today. Is you can kind of see on the right, we use 2D designs, and we started to see, and on the man picture, that's actually a $62 million football stadium in Texas, which now, well, it used to be the largest, and Texas keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's not the most expensive football stadium, but he got the job purely on designs. It's not 3D, he didn't model it, he just used a visual representation to sell his job. So when we started diving into it, we were looking into what are the biggest challenges, not just as a scaffold company or our own personal company, but that our industry is having or our customers are having. And for us, it was, the way we had our bid process was, you get a call, they send you drawings, you go to the job site, you get your dimensions, and then you do your takeoff. Well, back then it was, you would physically draw it, physically count it, and then you would put it into your bidding system, and then you would do your bid. Well, that's a lot of human error in every single one of those steps. So we were having inaccurate estimates, or you're overestimating because you're putting fluff in it because you're not really detailing the job. How are you managing your risk? And then what were some of the design errors that were unforeseen because you weren't really putting it to the drawings that were given to you or putting it to the dimensions that you took out in the field. And so now you have change orders or inefficient build with the crews. And so now you're changing your scope on the fly, and then you're bringing equipment out, and your labor's going over. So we try to identify how do we overcome those challenges. So we wanted to start partnering with our customers. We do mostly a lot of GC work with our subcontractors. How can we get in the front door? How can we beat our competition to those partnerships? So we developed 3D designs. We started investing into an exact design team and some other softwares and apps. So some of the ways I'm going to kind of talk about it is with case studies. So before I get into them, this is our basic bid process now. We get the drawings, the process is the same. You go take your dimensions, and then we submit it to our design team. You still draw a sketch, or if we're pretty senior at it now, we can talk to it, or we call it chatter, and describe how we want to do the design of the project. So instead of drawing it out, counting it, I submit it to the design team, I move on. I wait for the designs to get done. It creates our material list that has all of our rent, our labor, and even our freight in there. So now I've taken, for a $1 million job that could take you a week, it takes about an hour. All the work and the effort goes into the design, not your salesman. And so now what we're providing is you go design, bill of materials, price. And so now we're providing a visual representation or selling with a presentation, the way we like to call it, to your customer. So I'm not walking into an office and selling a quote with a price. I'm selling a concept design. And so what does that do? It allows your customers to come back to you before your crews get to the job. It allows them to collaborate with you, allows them to mark up the drawings. And the best part is when they mark it up and you build it and they realize they were wrong, change orders are easier. So there's no battle there. And when you get out there, it allows your crews to plan ahead of time. It allows your GCs to plan ahead of time. We help with logistic plans. We help with subcontractor needs. You may be going out there for a mason, but you have other subs that come along before that, and they have to be taken care of as well. So first example is, you can see on the left, this is another salesman's job. It's one of his good customers, and they have these 6 fins. And the way the GC wanted to do it was he wanted to wrap all the fins. They're like 150 feet wide, 100 feet tall, and they wanted scaffold at every level because they wanted all the subs to be able to work at one time. At this point in time, we were very busy. There was a lot of equipment. There was 2 other competitors bidding on it, and our schedule could not allow for the sequencing that the GC wanted to do. So the second one, and it was a fast turnaround, so we didn't get to model it, but we were able to show the customer, look at all, that's just 2 fins. There's 4 more fins that have to go. And so we're showing them, look at all the equipment that we have to bring to your job site, all the labor it's gonna take to build it. And so we come and we propose another solution utilizing mast climbers. With the use of the mast climbers, we cut their schedule down, we used less labor, we got the subs working faster, and the mason didn't know it was possible where this was located on the backside of the building and the angles of the fins. As you can see, we had a large outboard on the front end of the decks. But it worked. So where I'm going at is we were able to manipulate the project, not our project, it's a GC's project, to fit our schedule, our labor criteria, our equipment availability that better suited us just by showing a second solution to a customer. We could have done the scaffold. It probably would have been a harder close with the competition we're up against. So we were able to manipulate that schedule, all due to designs. On this project, we like to call it an education. This project was already sold by another scaffold company, and they had brought us in because of the critical path. They had a lot of groundwork they had to do. And GCs don't know if they haven't been taught or seen another solution. And so it's about a 35-foot cantilever to provide a deck so they can get to the soffit and the fascia. They had all this groundwork and masonry and windows to do underneath. And so the senior superintendent just said, we're going to build a deck from the ground up. Can't cantilever off the building 35 feet to give them their access. And so a superintendent had called and said, we're just looking at, do you have other ideas? So they just sent us some basic drawings, and so we came up with this concept. Didn't know if it was going to work until the engineers confirmed it, but we had an option that on the basics of scaffolding and the cantilever systems and all the other equipment that we can use, we can get out there and give them their access. So as you can see, they went with it. There was a lot of engineering behind it, but their initial plan was, we're just going to build from the ground up. And so we were able to educate them by using just typical components that there are other ways of attacking the project. You don't have to just do these old school, let's just build a deck, let's give them access underneath, we'll delay our schedule, we'll move our schedule. We're working with our customers to fit their needs or to gain an advantage in their schedule. To be honest, we had done like 15 feet. This is the farthest cantilever we had ever done. And then we just finished a 40-footer. Same thing, they didn't know if it could be possible. But we were able to work 6 months ahead of time, and we changed the drawings probably 4 or 5 times. But we did it 6 months in advance. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I need this. You get 2 weeks. We worked with our customer. We educated them. Our engineers were great. And so we were able to work that out. But again, we're educating them on things they don't know. They know scaffolding. They know decks. They know stair towers. But they don't know all the manipulation you can do with our equipment or all the solutions that all of our members can bring to a project. So this one was a good project. And this one took a lot of design effort. It was a 250-foot bell tower. It's only 40 by 40. And the owner of the building had a huge party. And so they cut the mason's schedule down in half. The masons had no clue, and this is right when COVID hit too. Masons had no clue how they were going to be able to put the manpower out there. The footprint of the building is no bigger, or the job site is no bigger than this room. And it had a ton of cast stone, ton of brick, ton of specialty stone pieces with etching in it and all that weighed 3,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 pounds. And so, of course, with the chaos again, world shuts down, what do you do? How are you going to be able to bid this job correctly, work with your masons, and you're locked in your house, and you're trying to provide hand sketches, or you're just giving them a scope with a number? So with the capabilities of what we were able to do today is we utilize Teams, we utilize Zoom, and then we utilize our design team to work together over a couple of weeks and come up with 3 different options. So the masons were responsible for the tower, and the GC is responsible for the dome. So these were the initial, Mason 1, they wanted to be cheap, they wanted to be basic, and so they just did frame and brace with some brackets. We told them, no, there's no way in hell you're going to have that much equipment with your schedule and be able to meet everything else that has to do it. They didn't care, that's what they wanted. So we gave it to them. So we priced them and we gave them an option to do frame and brace, told them how long it would take, told them how many truckloads it would take, and that's what they turned in. We had another mason, once we modeled the building, decide we want to go mast climbers. And so that's easy. Put a mast in the center, deck it out, here's your access. The problem that they had was how can they work all these areas and work at the pace the GC and the owner wants? But that's where we started. And then on the right, we had to give access to the dome, and it's a bell tower, so there's no windows. So the only openings you have is at the top arches, at about 150 feet in the air, and then you got to give access. So we designed that in the way that a mason can still do his work. They can get access to the dome. It's going to take a ton of engineering. And so when we submitted all these designs and the pricing and started working through it, nobody could hit the schedule that the GC needed. And you're in COVID, so it's not like we're meeting together to do these pool plans, or I don't know if you guys have heard of Lean Builder that's getting popular. But we were able to visually represent what the options are they wanted and if it was the right way to go. The consensus was it is not the right way to go. There's too much work, too much equipment. What can we do to make this project work? So again, they're asking a regional scaffold company to provide an option. You know, we're not a global company. We're based in Dallas, and $1 billion GC is calling a scaffold company and saying, we need help. How do we do this job? And so we come and we get back to the drawing board and we provide another option. So we call our members of the association and we kind of walk through it. So we provide a transport platform as an option with the scaffold tower for their personnel, materials, feed the units. And then we're like, okay, how are they going to work multiple levels? How fast can we get the equipment up? And everyone was under the understanding that mast climbers are the way to go, but how do you work multiple levels? And again, thanks to the association and Corinne's company, you can double stack the units. GC didn't know what that meant until we were able to show them on the job so they could visually see how they can attack the project. So we worked on that for months. And again, we have a top 5 GC, a very large mason, and then you have us. And we're really directing the project because of what we're bringing with the designs, how to attack the job safely, efficiently, productively. And we ended up, you can see in the middle, we actually provided 3 elevations of access. And we worked with the EOR, RPE, the Mason, and the GC's project team to come up with these 2 designs. And so we were able to get sign-off where we could cantilever a deck out in 2 elevations to provide a landing platform and overhead protection. We designed what we called a chair stand for 2 elevations. One was at about 100 and one was about 150, so they could work 3 different elevations at a time on all 4 sides. And they used a crane to provide the materials and all that. We helped the mason win the job because of these designs. We do work with the 2 masons that could really handle the project. And the mason that lost called us personally to say, there's no way we would have come up with something like that. We wouldn't have thought of that. Now, we can't take all the credit. The mason was really good about coming up with some of these ideas, like the one on the right. With the first design that you saw, we were coming from the lower section and building all this scaffold. Well, we were going to delay the mason about 6 weeks so all the subs could do their work, and then they would have to dismantle our equipment and then put their equipment back, which they figured out as they started doing the pool planning using our designs. So we had to figure out how can we provide the dome access and immediately get the mason working. And so we were able to design a scaffold on top of mast climbers that were locked. And they basically provided us an elevated landing platform, and then we designed the loads to the equipment specs, and we were able to build the scaffold up. And throughout most of the project, the GC thought all this stuff was crazy, and they were a little timid in us doing it, but as we worked through the pool planning, the engineering, all thanks to the design capabilities, it gave them that sense of, okay, we can do this. And so here's kind of, so you can see we actually did do the job. Again, we're a scaffold company that got started before anybody else knew about the job. We're providing options, providing designs before the job's even getting scheduled or they're letting out their subs. And we're working with multiple companies from GCs to subs and engineers to come up with a better way of doing the job. And this was probably one of the more efficient jobs that we've been on in a while, and you can see the complexity. We had 16 mast climbers on the job, and again, it's only a 40 by 40 footprint. And the mason did actually hit the schedule because of the way this was designed. And to put a feather in our cap, we won an award thanks to this. So I've talked about we've been able, with the design capabilities, we've been able to kind of manipulate a project to fit our needs, fit our equipment availability, fit our scheduling, help us be more competitive, knowing that we can win with one solution versus what the GC knows and understands, and it's kind of old school, and that's how they want it. And then we're able to educate. GCs and subcontractors need to be in this room, need to be a part of our association. They need to know all the solutions that can be provided. Not everyone knows about hoist and transport platforms and different ways you can use a swing stage and a boom lift and all of that. And so by having those designs, we're educating them on the different solutions they can utilize to better fit their project needs. And so the part that I love and what I push for is I want to be with the GC and the developer or the owner before anybody else is there. I want to try to control the situation utilizing our design. And when I say I want to control it, I want to steer them in a direction that best fits our company as well as best fits the project. And so we had a customer call us, and it's for an owner that owns about 4 million square feet in downtown, and this is his actual residence. And the brick is failing, stone's failing, everything's leaking, have a major waterproof issue, and they got to demo the entire structure and put the exact same structure back. And so the GC, again, had their plan in place. It's their way or the highway, and they wanted to just wrap the whole thing with scaffold. There was so much work that had to be done. They wanted people all over the place, getting the demo out, getting the debris out, and then putting it back. So we met with them a couple times and tried to change their narrative to, I don't think this will work, and one, we would lose to our competition going this route. We didn't have the manpower, we could have gotten the equipment, but the cost and the timing would not have worked for our company. So we went ahead and we designed it all out of scaffolding. They wanted elevators, they wanted overhead protection, they wanted deck at every level. And the reason they asked us to do the drawing is they had to present to the owner to close the job. They technically had the job, but the owner wanted to physically see the impact that it'll do to that city block, to the retail that's on the floor below that's paying him to be there, and how it's going to affect them for a 2-year renovation project. So our GC, I wish I could say that that was ours, but they actually took all of our CAD drawings and our parts and pieces, and they put it in, I think it was Revit. And so I wish I could show the video, but I'm not allowed to, is they actually did like a drone video using our scaffolding and our design to present to the owner. They flew it through the overhead protection, they went around the elevators, they went up on the roof. And so they present it to the owner, and the owner only allows lane closure. 1 lane closure, 3 sides. We tell them how much equipment it is. Again, we're showing them the problems and the inefficiencies before they're even talking to subcontractors. And they're looking at us as kind of the thought leader of how do we do this project. And again, they're a top $5 billion GC, and they're calling a scaffold company to help them with their design work, their logistics plans. How do the subs get to do how do they do their work? How do they get the materials, or how do they get it off? And they're asking us to provide the designs and show them where those problems are, where the inefficiencies are, show the owner, a $1 billion owner, hey, this is what it'll look like. This is how we're going to impact your everyday life, your residents, your retail, all of that. So this was the actual, final design, is we took a little bit of everything and we incorporated it we provided overhead protection. We designed it so the mast climber is actually based out on the overhead protection. We provided 3 hoists that were 200 feet high, 3 200-foot trash chutes that were attached to the scaffold. And so they were safely able to go up and down, feed their materials, get the demo off, do the job, and we built it in a way that kind of copied the New York overhead protection. So we were higher elevated and able to allow the retail to have a little bit more visual representation while the construction is going on. So here's the job. You can see all the different solutions that we provided, how they were able to access it. And when we met with all the subcontractors, there was no other way they wanted to go. They knew how fast the job had to go. They knew they had to get the materials off. But they couldn't see any other way once we showed this design of how to do the job. And so, again, to kind of go over the design of it, we're a regional scaffold company that is in the door before the bid. We're there at the bid. We're there at the planning. We're at the install. And we're working to find the problems, the inefficiencies, and we're providing a more quality way of attacking a project. It's not to say that we don't still square foot a job or we just send them a price because we're moving so fast, but we're allowing our salesmen to sell easier with the visual representation. We're not just, hey, call the scaffold guys, get a number, bid the job, see what happens. They always tell us all the time, you're high. And everyone says, oh yeah, we're always high, we're not the low. We are high. But when you show that design and you show that quality, you're putting a plan in place. And when I say just a list of numbers, when I was first coming up, they said, speed is everything. Get the number to the customer as fast as you can. Don't worry about a plan, because if you don't get the job, then you didn't waste your time. By providing those designs ahead of time, we like to say we're 80 to 90% there. We just got to get through the logistics. We got to check where the leg locations are, where our tiebacks are. And so, as you all know, our customers don't think ahead. scaffolding as just a tool, so you guys are always available, you're always ready, so get there tomorrow. But we are ready, we are available, and we already have a plan in place with those designs. And then for us and everybody with the supply chain issues, we can manipulate our drawings at that phase to fit our inventory. So if you bid it out of 10s and 7s and you have no 10s and 7s, we're already with a drawing with our project team, changing it to fit what our inventory availability has. And then we're educating our customers with solutions they don't know about. They don't understand how it works with the building. You can send them the user manuals or some photos, but they don't necessarily know how it's going to benefit their project. So by being able to incorporate that into the drawings, we're able to educate them on how it will work. And then, of course, more precise estimating. We're not having to hand count data, enter our numbers. It's already being drawn. It's counting the pieces as we draw it. And it allows us to minimize the change orders, minimize the fights, and make us more productive, more profitable. And so and the reason I want to spend most of the time on the design is we want our industry doing that. We want to raise the quality of how we bid jobs or how they think of hoist companies and scaffold companies and provide a better product and a view of our industry to our customers. And we feel we're doing head and shoulders above our competition and even some larger subcontractors because they're calling us to figure out how to just send the bid out. Or they're calling us to say, how would you attack the job so that we can send the bid out and say, this is how we're going to provide the access. And so with the designs, you can't just say, okay, we're done. So designs have brought us into another aspect of where we are now, and so is COVID, with digitizing our processes and trying to utilize different technologies that are out there today and that you're seeing in the exhibitor halls too. This is kind of the basic communication of everyday life for us. You're looking for forklifts, you're sourcing projects, you're getting the project ready, and then you got your other departments. You got operations, you got your field team, you got your customers, you're trying to get the contracts. And so it's a little chaotic when you look at that, and then you say, how can we streamline that? How can we make it faster? How can we keep up with the speed of the scheduling? And so some people probably still do this today, but this is how we used to do our documentation. Right? You go print 100 sheets, you kill 100 trees, you send it out to the job site, and you tell your foreman, here's all the paperwork we have to have on a daily basis. And then the worst thing that I can't stand are filing cabinets. So they do their job, they get their paperwork, you fill out your customer's paperwork, and then they got to get it into the office, and someone has to go and sort through it. And so we thought it was faster to buy them a fax machine so they could fax it to us every day. Again, we're all that paperwork, you're double handling paper, and we actually thought we were ahead of the game because you could send text messages. You didn't have to call them. And so our foreman loved it because they could just copy a text and send it out to their teams to tell them, here's your address, site contact, all of that. That wasn't too long ago that we were doing that, and teams probably are still doing this in our industry. And so with our interactions in the association and the companies here, we were saying, okay, how can we streamline? How can we keep up with our customers? What are our customers needing and wanting? And so we wanted to integrate our communication. We wanted to connect the front and back offices. And especially with COVID, you can't go in someone's office for the last 2 years and try to collaborate and figure that out. So we looked into just using Outlook, as simple as Outlook, to put our schedule in and sending it out. And then now you're seeing all these apps out there that you can utilize for scheduling and time tracking and reporting. And so what we were doing with the designs, we say we're being innovative, but we were streamlining our processes. We were able to find problems and find solutions with our designs, and it brought us into, okay, what other parts of our company can we do better? And so then we started looking into, once you get the designs, you're speeding up the process of, okay, we can go check the legs, send the red lines in, pull the equipment, schedule it with your customer, build it, get it done. And personally, for me, is once it gets to the field, I want to go find another job. I want to find more money. And so, you don't have as much time to run the crews. And so now we started looking into just digital forms. We want job statuses, we want installation completion forms, pre-dismantle inspection, safety, JHAs, all this paperwork that we need for documentation, we've now digitized it. We get it in real time. And so this is a status report of a job that's up right now. And I was in Austin looking at another project, and I get this from the foreman. I can physically see, without having to be anywhere close to Dallas, how the project is going. Seeing if they're building it right. Are they doing it safely? Are they tied off? Are they using planks to work off of? Are they tied back correctly? Are they following the designs? We're getting it in real time. And at the same time as I'm looking at it, our customer is getting the same form. So now they're looking and seeing, okay, they're ahead of schedule, they're behind schedule, they're on schedule. They don't have to communicate with us. They can start communicating with subs to get them prepared, use it in their pool planning. And so here we are helping our customer again with real-time reporting. And so the other part of it is the honor system with our crews and their time schedules and everything. With all the time tracking apps that you can utilize, they also have a form system. They can show you photos, take notes, report injuries, cut the payroll in half. And so there's all these resources that you guys can utilize and that we're putting our time in, again, to streamline our processes and our reporting. The biggest thing that we've been able to find ties in with our designs again, is our field and our sales don't have to come back to the office to update our designs. We're doing it in the field. We're using iPads, we're using iPhones, and we're sending it in to the design team. They make the changes, they update it, it gets pulled, it gets out into the job, and the salesman isn't having to take time, or the foreman, to come back to the office, sit down with the design team, and explain, or the operations. It's all being done from the field. Excuse me. And so what are we doing? We're mobilizing the field. You're utilizing your designs. We're getting real-time communication. We're real-time reporting to our customers. We're getting production tracking. We're getting our photos. And we're having fewer changes and rework because we're able to send the drawings with our scope of work and our pre-site walks to our foremen so they can have a better understanding of that job before they get there. So the last part of it is, and she kind of spoke about it as well, is with COVID comes change, drastic change. Being able to just walk into a trailer and working with your customer, some will let you, some won't. A lot of them want to do the cloud collaboration. You're seeing softwares like Procore and Building Connected where they can send you a bid and their photos and the drawings without having to use email. And then they want you to put everything in there. That's how they want you to communicate. So you're seeing a lot of cloud softwares and CRMs and project management tools that are out there. And so one of the things that we've been looking into over the last couple of years is we're developing, we want to develop a one-all tool. But so you have your CRMs, you're trying to analyze and review your sales capabilities and where are they at. You're trying to assign bids. And with the changes of work from home, cloud collaboration is very key for that type of communication. The speed, the efficiency, the tracking. Everybody you're wanting to see more and more tracking and reporting and dashboards. And we were doing them all through Excel, all by hand, data entry, all that. And so with these new softwares that are out there, you're starting to see You can track bids. You can see their pipeline, their forecasting. How many bids is your salesman doing? We're getting more efficient as a company as a whole and as an industry from top to bottom, from designs to field, to our sales team, to our operations. Our design, we can see it out in the field. I can look at my phone right now, and I can look while I'm with the customer, and he says, well, when do you think you can get the bid? And I can pull up our design list. We can prioritize our design list from our phones, our tablets, all of that. You can see that some are won, some are past due. So you can just put these little details that just betters your company with just little things. Just looking at a design list to say, yeah, there's a lot on the table. We're going to need a few days if that's okay. And we're telling our customer before we even have to get back to the office, we're telling them right then and there. Biggest thing that I love about the new softwares that are out there, no more filing cabinets. You've got all this cloud storage. Everything we're doing is digital, so all you can upload it into those softwares and those CRMs and the project management tools. It's just you're seeing more and more just better way of working. And the construction industry is always last. We're always behind. But you're starting to see GCs, they're building tech arms of their companies where they're focusing on design and focusing on things like this because they're getting a younger generation that doesn't want to pick up the phone. They want to text, they want to send an email. They don't want to read 500 things to find out what it is that they're looking at. They want speed, they want efficiency, they want it now. We were talking and they asked, they don't read books anymore. I don't read a book. I want it fast and I want it short and I want to get to the next one. I couldn't tell you the last time I read a book that was not visual for me. And that's the workforce that's coming in. And so we're trying to get ahead of it with those types of communication. And so we just kind of show some other ways of the softwares that are out there. I mean, you can even do instant messaging within a project of the software, so it all stays there. And so you're getting it faster, you're showing it visually. You can put dates, track it, when is it coming up, it'll alert you. There's all these different resources out there that they want speed. So again, just the benefits of the cloud is, with COVID and everything, it's changed everything. People are working from home or they're having hybrid type schedules where this person's in the office, but that person isn't in the office, and those two people need to be in the office at the same time. And so your communication is getting poor, or it's getting harder and slower, you're falling behind. So these types of softwares are helping to bring that back. And you're going to see it more and more with the younger generation, where GCs are going. State to state, their COVID protocols are different. And so with GCs, with our subs or our own employees, people want their information now. They want it fast. And so by going with the digital forms, going with the cloud collaboration, showing the designs, you're giving them real-time reporting and you're giving it to them right now. The other part of it, it's all money. You're working harder, but you're working smarter. And so you're streamlining your processes, you're automating your project information, you're seeing dashboards, so you're seeing the information easier. And then the collaboration of using those softwares is getting more efficient, faster, easier. You can talk to anybody anywhere. Go through documents from your hotel room. And so when they asked me to put this on, I wanted to do it because I can't say no to Corinne. But the other part of it is do I want to show what we do to separate ourselves from the competition, or what are we looking into to take the next step? And our 50% of our office was saying, don't do it. just show them the designs and be vague about it. But one of the things that I've always been taught, and I thank my dad for it, is you have to be invested in the association. And one of those ways, and I think Howard talked about it yesterday, is we want to be thought leaders. We want to be the go-to for our industry, that they come to SAI or they come to our members for ideas, for solutions. How do we look at the problems? Is there a better way to do it? And so I hope that with showing you how we do our designs, how we utilize our forms and our softwares, that I've taught something or shown you something new. But the biggest takeaway for us is we've been able to grow since taking the time and investing in those lanes, because we're in those meeting rooms with the owners or developers and GCs, and they're asking us for solutions. And then once we're out there, they're getting real-time reports like that. So we're trying to keep up with the construction industries, because owners and developers' schedules are getting faster and faster and faster. And so you have to adapt, you have to plan, and you have to be a step ahead so you can keep up with it. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes. Corinne? That's Salesforce. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yes. AutoCAD. And then we tried other different systems when we render it, but a lot of the times the GCs use Revit, or they're using BIM, or they're using something else. And so we were able to find that AutoCAD is more of a middle ground. So we can send them our CAD drawings, and then they can incorporate it into whichever software they're using.
Are you able to track the field productivity with Salesforce?
Yes. So with Salesforce, they have different modules that you can manipulate. And so we were very lucky that there's a software company in Dallas that works with general contractors using Salesforce. And so they're actually able to tie in our time tracking, so we can see from bid to award to the job prep to planning, every aspect of the job. All of our revenue, all of our costs, and so we're tracking it better. And the newest thing that we're trying to do, we've got the plugin, we haven't let it out yet, is tying the inventory at the design stage. So when they're drawing and they spit out the material list, it'll actually read what's in our inventory and say, yes, we have it, or it's low, or you have plenty of it so you can keep it moving. Or they can make the change right there and see, okay, we can't use that, but we can go there. And so they're manipulating it before it even gets to the yard. Yes. We use a consultant. We were very lucky that when we really got started in the design, all of our designers are into coding. And so they do a lot of Googling, and they do a lot of testing. And so we have consultants that we use. And then, again, we had a company that just kind of fell in our lap and could manipulate it for us.
Matt, what's your design team look like? And the second question behind it is, how does the sales team keep losing that piece of it?
So I have two older salesmen. They still think, get the quote to the customer. And it has taken them a couple of years to buy in because they've been doing it themselves for so long. They like that aspect of drawing it out and doing it themselves. And so for them to lose that part of the bid has taken time. But once they see the type of jobs that we're closing, we're not just closing the 10s and the 20s. They're 6-figure, they're 7 figures. And they attribute it to the design side. So, but they do, the control part is the hardest. Because when a designer sees it and he puts it to the model, he's more detailed with the drawing. So he can make changes to fit it that maybe he didn't necessarily catch. And so when they see a change and they don't really look into it, there is some. So what was the other question?
What's your design team look like? How many you got?
So right now we have 3 designers on our staff, and we have 5 salesmen that feed them. And they all use AutoCAD. All right. Thank you guys very much. You'll have a good show.